I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects. I'm Kirsty. I work at RSM, providing business advisory and consulting services. I have a background of over 20 years in advertising and media investment. I'm a passionate advocate for education, and I volunteer as the president of the ACT Council of P&C Associations. Council represents the 85 P&Cs plus assistant to ACT education on a range of issues that affect parents. One of the issues that I guess has captured one of my main focuses is disability education. It's close to my heart because both of my daughters were diagnosed with autism 6 years ago. And I wanted to discuss inclusion and how every school, every classroom and every workplace can make inclusion accessible. Over the last 10 years, the social model of disability has taken up quite enthusiastically in education policy, and it implies that everyone has the capacity to participate in society and life as a citizen, and that people should be included in all aspects of human life, regardless of their ability. You'll see in the ACT Future of Education strategy that inclusion is one of the 4 key principles that's underpinning that strategy. But what does inclusion actually look like in education, in our schools and in a classroom? Some schools do a great job. At its best, inclusion means belonging to the community, feeling welcomed and supported by your peers and teachers. At worst, it's a term applied to misguided attempts at trying to include a student at school, but still preventing that student from participating in experiences like camps and sports carnivals or playing in the playground because they're still segregated within the school. And so for inclusion to be successful, the people in the community doing the including have to adapt and change their own attitudes and approaches. And frankly, that's really confronting and really, really hard. It isn't about the person fitting in with the school, it's about actually me changing the way I behave with that person. Too frequently, education is only on education's terms, so inclusion is only on education's terms, and it places the work on the student and the family to make all the adjustments to fit in. As parents, we hear, I'm not sure we have the support here to manage their needs, or our funding doesn't really cover that, or my personal favourite, can you step out of work today and come and be your student support person because we don't really know what to do. Students are still punished for not coping with their autism rather than being supported and taught how to manage it. So I think in a lot of cases we don't really have a very clear picture of what makes inclusive education accessible for students with autism. And so how do you do that? It's pretty fundamental. It's about understanding and changing the way you behave. Understanding that an autistic person's brain actually works a little bit differently and that you might need to adapt to make that person feel comfortable with you. So people with autism have social communication challenges. The ability to speak our mind is taken for granted. The fact that I can stand up here and talk, I take that for granted pretty much. But for my younger daughter to speak, she uses a device and it requires a lot of processing time to actually talk to her because she needs to think about it before she can actually get it out. She makes jokes, she's really funny, you can have a really sophisticated conversation, you just have to have a little bit more patience. My girls aren't very good at reading facial expressions or emotions. They don't make eye contact, they don't read non-verbal communication. So students can make them feel included by explaining and labelling how they're feeling and help them navigate that conversation. Teachers just have to write it down and they use visuals. It's actually not that hard. Another big issue is class size. Autism is a social disability. So expecting her to happily enjoy being in a big class of 25 to 30 kids and not be exhausted, emotionally drained and overwhelmed is a bit like expecting a paraplegic to just get up and walk a bit this afternoon. That would be okay. For her it's just something that's not that possible. So she needs a smaller class, but not a special segregated enclave. The second one is sensory sensitivities. My older girl can't wear a school uniform. For her, wearing a cotton dress is a bit like wearing a hair shirt. She can also hear and distinguish sounds. So I guess what I wanted to talk about is if we make education truly inclusive, it means that every principal, teacher and student needs to raise their expectations around how we interact.